Now Morning Show, everyone. My next guest is a media icon, of course, in her own right. But today we're going to be using her knowledge as a criminologist and a criminal psychologist. Fun fact, Miss Renee Cummings, I'm going to introduce in a second, also used to work here at TTT. And it's always good when we can welcome one of our own who left and who just became something amazing. So Miss Renee Cummings, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Of course. How are you this morning?
I'm good, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, good. It's so good that you can join us today because we're going to pick your brain a little bit. Now, the state of emergency has been extended for another 3 months, and we also still have our 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. But what we're also realizing is that even though we have the SOE and we have the curfew, we're still seeing incidents of crime, and they're ranging from petty crime to serious crime such as murder. In your opinion, and given what you know, what do you think can cause something like this to still happen?
So let me just establish this. In general, a state of emergency is an artificial state. So no country can continue in a state of emergency forever. It's not real, it's artificial, it's temporary, so that it often fools people into believing things are safe and crime is down. But without data to analyze, it becomes a bit challenging for me to say or to come to any firm conclusions what's causing crime. But there are some patterns and some trends and some anomalies that we're seeing internationally. It's happening all over the world. And one of the things that we're seeing would be high homicide. But you asked about petty crime. So in general, when an economy is in a troubling state, you would find petty crime, increase. I mean, people steal things for a quick turnover. People want money. Money is not circulating on the streets. And many income sources, legit and illegit, have dried up. So you steal something that you can probably sell quickly and something that is visible, something that's easy accessible, and of course, something of value. And of course, people don't have money, so people are looking for a discount. So the exchange of stolen goods often feels like a sale for many people. I think what we've got to think about is the economic distress, the unemployment. The petty theft would always be high in those types of situations, petty crime as well. And the other thing that we're seeing a lot is because people are at home, and this is an international phenomenon, people are at home, people are working from home, you are seeing more crimes on commercial spaces. And of course, there are some stores that are closed and some stores that are closed for good. So you are finding that property theft, commercial property theft, of course, is increasing. When it comes to homicide, what we are seeing internationally, and I said this trend is all over the world, and we are trying to think about why is this happening? Homicide rates are increasing, gun violence increasing as well. And what we did realize is that in the early stage of the pandemic, in about March 2020 to maybe into 6 months, crime in general reduced drastically. But as we are in 2021, coming to the end of this year, we're also seeing that homicide is back, gun violence is back, a lot of violence happening on the streets and happening in homes again, because probably the initial fear of that contagion effect is no longer. And of course, people are vaccinated, including individuals who may have criminal intent.
Right. Now, I know that the police service, in trying to curb the instances of crime, they have developed certain things. So, for example, they launched the gender-based violence unit because, of course, with people being home, there was an increase in, domestic violence cases. They also launched a unit in terms of dealing with old murders, and they've also implemented some other initiatives. Do you think these things are good? And do you think that they can help in curbing the crime that is, happening right now in TNT?
So those initiatives that have been implemented, although commendable, are basic. They are standard policing. They've been part of police departments for decades. So there's nothing newsworthy about that other than the fact it took so long for us to implement or to get these units and initiatives up and working. The challenge is, where's the data? And that's the challenge we have always had in Trinidad and Tobago. Where's the data to assess and analyze the performance of these units? And I would say a misconception when it comes to understanding crime in Trinidad and Tobago, crime prevention, crime control, is that, you implement something and you expect immediate results. It doesn't work like that. A crime prevention initiative usually takes about 3 years for us to see any kind of movement or for us to analyze whether it's efficient, whether it's effective. What's the success rate? What's the performance rate? So with the lack of data, you are also in a position where your interventions really seem unscientific because they're not evidence-based. And our challenge in Trinidad and Tobago is that we are not a data-driven society. Our methodologies are often not scientific. We do things over and over and over, expecting the same results. And sometimes we believe if we just change who's at the top or who's at the middle, we're going to see a reduction in crime. Those are misconceptions that have created a very dysfunctional conversation. So although those initiatives have been put in place, and that's a good thing, because police departments, as I said to you, internationally have those units. They're as basic as police units get. What we need to do is start to take it to the next level and start to rethink the ways in which we are doing crime prevention and crime control, and the ways in which we are doing policing in this country, in Trinidad and Tobago, because it really isn't very scientific.
Now, Ms. Cummings, I mean, one can argue, because I look at the press releases that are sent out by the police service sometimes, and one can argue that, for example, the gender-based violence unit, since the unit was launched, there have been a number of cases, and they could even argue that there have been a number of cases solved. But if you're still saying that these are very basic, do you know what kind of measures we can implement to curb the crime?
Right. So the unit is great. That's fine. We need the unit. The unit is important to when we look at the level of intimate partner violence and domestic violence and child abuse in our country. So the unit is critical. What we need to think about is that you cannot measure the success rate of a unit in 12 months or in 24 months. You've really got to look at how those initiatives have worked over a very long time. You've also got to attach a research study to it, which means that the TTPS cannot give you statistics and say, this is successful or this is working. That's not how statistics and data science work. It just isn't. What is good is that if you establish the unit in the early months of the unit, people are going to call in. People are going to call in and people are going to report. And after a while, that is going to dwindle. Now, the unit probably has some amazing officers who could be exceptionally trained, who have an extraordinary amount of passion. So there will definitely be some cases that are solved. But then when you compare those cases against our detection rate, which has been abysmal for the last 2 decades, we cannot move beyond 20% solvency rate for crime. We have certain challenges. And those challenges mean we need to really reimagine the ways we are doing policing.
Now, Ms. Cummings, can you give me one measure that a government or even the police service can implement, like apart from the data, apart from the statistics, anything that you can, suggest that may help us to address crime locally?
Well, if you know anything about me, I've been suggesting for about 10 years. I got so
Yes.
tired of suggestion, I
Yes.
decided to take my suggestions elsewhere. And now I work in artificial intelligence with some
Right.
of, the top universities in the world coming up with solutions to reimagine crime. I'm also part of an initiative at MIT, one of the top innovative schools in the world, where I'm working with international technologists to reimagine the ways in which we police in the US. And I've also been working on my own tools for policing at the University of Virginia, where I'm the data scientist, the data activist in residence, working with data scientists. So
Right.
what I'm saying to you is this: we've got to rethink the ways in which we do policing. We have got to rethink the ways in which we use talent in our country, the ways in which we use technology, the kinds of tactics that we design. Because we procure technology, it doesn't mean that we're doing 21st century policing. And we've got to get back to the things that really matter when it comes to policing. How do we do an investigation? How long does an investigation take? How do we interview suspects? What about situations of police use of force or death in police custody? And how these things indict the approaches used by the police? Accountability, transparency. Those are the 2 things that are most critical to professional policing, police effectiveness, police efficiency. These are also important to the ways in which we think about democracy in our country, the ways in which we think about justice and social justice. So if we really want to improve policing, think about public oversight, citizen participation, designing police strategies. If you really want to understand policing, ask young people what they think about the police in your country. Ask young people how confident they are about policing. So what I would say is, and I have spent some time working with the TTPS, and they are amazing police officers. They're extraordinary amount of passion and commitment from many of our officers, but we've got to reimagine police leadership. And we have got to bring science and technology and data science and criminologists and interdisciplinary thinking into the ways in which we are doing policing. We are still doing 19th century policing in 2021.
Now, Ms. Cummings, you mentioned, the young people, ask the young people what they think about the police force, and I want to take us a bit further. How can we have the average citizen involved in policing and managing crime in a country?
Well, one of the things that we do is we present policing as though it's some big national security secret and people can't understand what the police are doing, or the police strategies must be, hush hush. That's not how it's done. You establish what those strategies are and you corral the support of communities. If you really want to know if your policing approaches are working, ask yourself, what is the level of willingness of a citizen to come forward to give evidence in your country or in any country? And that really speaks to the quality of policing. So what we need to really think about is, how do we move into a more proactive space? How do we engage the quality talent that we have? How do we restructure how we lead the agencies? How do we build relationships with communities? When police officers go into communities, how do they speak? How do they treat you? How do you feel? And those are the important things. And those are the things that say we are confident about the quality of justice in our country. We are confident about the ways in which democracy works. There's a major correlation between policing and democracy. Policing speaks to justice. Justice speaks to democracy. Policing speaks to governance. It speaks to good governance. So if policing is not working in a country, it's not only an indictment on the police, but it's an indictment on the policies that an established, your government or any political leadership, the policies they have put in place or not put in place.
Right. Now, one of the things I think we don't think about a lot, Ms. Cummings, is the economic damage or the economic effect that crime can have on a country. Could you speak some more to that? I mean, it seems as if it's a negative, but I don't want to presume, because I know you have done the research. So what is the economic effect of crime on a country?
Well, it's this. So first of all, where there is crime, there is trauma, there is pain, there is intergenerational pain, intergenerational trauma. These things impact people, the way they think, the way they behave, and how they engage in the country. Now, when you have a country with such a low detection rate as we have, and high violence, and the fact that when it comes to a Google search, every year we make the top 10, the top 15, or the top 20 most violent countries in the world. It's just not a good look for a country when it comes to investment. And it's also not a good look for a country if people are feeling that justice is not served, or people are feeling that justice is slow, or there's legal cynicism, or there's intergenerational pain and trauma, or there's a nation that's desensitized to crime. So from an international perspective, you just don't look like something that people want to invest in. And from a domestic perspective, a lot of people just don't feel as though they are part of the development of the country, the progress of the country. And you start to feel stuck because the only thing that seems to be happening around you is violence and bloodshed and pain and tragedy. So you want to move from that, because where there is good policing and there is a criminal justice system that's work and justice is real time, it lifts the spirit of someone, and it makes someone feel that, this is my country. I mean, I love my country, and there are things that we can do, but we keep making the wrong kinds of decisions when it comes to the ways in which we think of policing, or the ways in which we believe policing is supposed to serve a country. And I will say to you again, there are some brilliant police officers, there are some exceptional police leaders, and there are lots and lots of talented Trinidad and Tobago nationals working internationally in criminal justice and policing. We've got to, I always say this, believe in ourselves and believe in our own talent and put those things to work for the best of our nation.
Ms. Cummings, thank you so much for the information, and thank you so much for picking your brain. I know 10 minutes or 50 minutes is not a lot of time to spend with you, but I am still so thankful for all the information that you were able to share, and please join us again if you can.
Thank you very much, and good luck on your new assignment. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. And guys, that was Miss Renee Cummings, who is a criminologist and a criminal psychologist who joined us here just to talk about the effect of crime on the country, especially during a pandemic. And guys, you're locked onto the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Keep it locked.